Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Tuesdays wherever you may be across the country. I hope that you, unlike LeBron James, have not paid fealty to the Chinese Communistic Party in opposition to the United States government. I hope you have not thrown your bosses under a bus for having the gall to believe in democracy. We have got a lot to get to, but get your popcorn, boys and girls. LeBron James is about to get verbally decapitated on this here show. My name is Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Show. Wherever you may be across the world, around the country, wherever you might be listening, watching, or doing whatever else you've been. A little bit of background. In case you have not been paying attention, the NBA last week had the worst week of any professional sports league in the history of my life as a sports fan. And as if that were not bad enough, yesterday evening, LeBron James decided that he was going to finally address the situation in China after a full week to think about what he might say. I want to repeat this because I think it is important. LeBron James had a full week to contemplate how he might address the situation in China. Well, he addressed it, and it did not go well. I'm going to read you the quotes from LeBron James and deconstruct them as we go, as I have also done on my website. If you're curious about this, you can go to Outkick.com and read my entire article analyzing LeBron James. But in the meantime, here is what LeBron had to say, and I believe we can grab that clip and put it in. If you are watching this now, go ahead and put that clip in so everybody can watch LeBron himself talk about it. You can watch it right now at Outkick.com. Okay, here's what LeBron had to say. LeBron said, "We all talk about this freedom of speech. Yes, we all do have freedom of speech. But at times, there are ramifications for the negative that can happen when you're not thinking about others, when you only think about yourself." All right, that's LeBron's opening comments on Daryl Morey's tweet that he sent, the Houston Rockets GM. He accuses Daryl Morey of, quote, only thinking about yourself, not thinking about others. This is one of the dumbest takes to begin with that I've ever seen any athlete have. But I want to reinforce what Daryl Morey was tweeting in favor of. Democracy protesters in Hong Kong. This was not a tweet that he sent about himself or for himself. It was a tweet he sent on behalf of the 1.4 billion Chinese people who don't have basic human rights, including 1 million of them that are currently in concentration camps, and the protesters in Hong Kong who are attempting to maintain the democratic rights that they already have, which is under siege from an authoritarian government in China. But the important thing to understand here is that Daryl Morey was on its face, literally tweeting about everybody else who doesn't have basic human rights. Okay? That's where we start here. And where LeBron doesn't seem to understand that is probably because, in the grand scheme of things, LeBron is a good basketball player, not a great intellect. I don't want to get into a word or sentence feud with Daryl Morey, but I believe he wasn't educated on the situation at hand, and he misspoke. All right, let's pause here for a moment. LeBron James graduated from high school. Him saying he doesn't believe that Daryl Morey was educated on the situation at hand is implicitly directing you to understand that he has been educated on the situation at hand and understands it better than Daryl Morey did. Now, I don't pretend to know LeBron James's ability to analyze foreign political situations as they pertain to human rights, right? Maybe LeBron James is brilliant when it comes to sophisticated analysis of human rights related crises around the world. Maybe this man was the best genius that has ever existed when things were going down in Sudan. Maybe the United States government got him on the phone and they're like, yo, LeBron, we don't know how to handle Sudan. You got a solution for us? Maybe LeBron James has been in a lot of situation rooms over the years. When situations like Hong Kong arise, LeBron James has been the go-to source for all human rights related issues around the world, okay? It's possible that's going on. Maybe LeBron is our foremost expert on Venezuela right now, and I'm just not aware of it, okay? But in general, if I gave you two people and I said, who do you think is more likely to understand in an intelligent fashion a complex geopolitical event currently taking place in one of the nation's most populous countries? A man who graduated from Northwestern and got his MBA at MIT, or a guy who graduated from high school in Ohio? If I just gave you those two options, who do you think would better understand complex geopolitical issues? The guy who graduated from high school in Ohio, or the guy who went to Northwestern and then also continued schooling to get a MBA at MIT? Again, if I were setting odds on that, just off the top of my head, I'd probably go with the guy who went to Northwestern and MIT at minus 1,000, maybe minus 10,000 as the favorite to understand those geopolitical related issues, okay? That is just the way that I would put it out there. It's possible that there are people who graduate from high school, never go to school anywhere else, that become amazing foreign policy savants. I don't know any, but there's probably one or two in the country, and maybe in addition to playing basketball all the time, maybe LeBron James is one of them. Could happen. Could be true, okay? But I will say this. Imagine the outrage in this country if Daryl Morey had said about LeBron James, I believe he wasn't educated on the situation at hand and he misspoke. He would be called racist, right? Daryl Morey, if he stepped in and said LeBron James isn't educated on the situation at hand, he would 100% be called racist. Everyone would lose their mind, all right? I'm just telling you, LeBron James doesn't, in my opinion, have a very good grasp of the situation in China, and the first two sentences that he attempted to analyze here have proven pretty much that this isn't true, all right? Also, LeBron then takes the next step. What's the consequences of this tweet? So many people could have been harmed, not only financially, but physically, emotionally, spiritually. All right, I'm sorry. LeBron James said that because Daryl Morey sent this tweet saying he believed in democracy in China, in Hong Kong in specifically, he believed, so this is a direct quote from LeBron James, so many people could have been harmed not only financially, but physically, emotionally, and spiritually. This is one of the dumbest quotes I've ever seen of all time. Let's unpack this as a reasonably intelligent person could. Now, could people be hurt financially for saying that China is a communist country which doesn't allow freedoms for its people, and as a result, we support democracy? 100% that is true, okay? That is 1 billion% true that someone could be hurt financially. Do you know who that someone might be? LeBron James. LeBron James could be hurt financially because a communist dictatorship could be upset that American values are being propagated by an American company, and that as a result, this is likely to become an issue going forward. In fact, I think LeBron bent the knee to China, not only because he continued to sell sneakers in China, but also so that he can actually be able to get Space Jam 2 in movie theaters in China. This isn't just even about basketball for LeBron anymore. He's trying to make sure that he gets Space Jam 2 into theaters in China. This is the truth, all right? But those are all financial considerations. And certainly you can rip the NBA to the high heavens because a woke league that includes Steve Kerr, Greg Popovich, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Adam Silver, James Harden, across the board, all of these dudes are incredibly woke when it comes to talking about American-related issues which don't impact their pocketbook. But the moment that China pulled back the pimp hand and threatened to smack them in the face and take money out of their wallet, do you know what they did? They bent the knee to China and said, whatever you need, Chairman, I will follow through. And LeBron James is crazy. LeBron James is crazy if he thinks there's actual physical, emotional, and spiritual harms involved in that tweet. Do you know where physical, emotional, and spiritual harms actually reside? In China, where you have no freedom of religion and they have Muslims in a concentration camp. In China, where if you stand up to the government, they will put you in a prison and you will never be seen again. In China, where you have no religious freedom, freedom of speech, or basic human rights, that is where I would say people could be harmed physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Maybe LeBron James is actually suggesting that he could have been pulled out of his 5-star hotel and somehow forced to what? Forced to what? I don't even know what he could be forced to have happen to him. But there's no actual danger to the NBA players in China. And by the way, if there is actual danger in China, maybe the NBA shouldn't have their players there. Just an idea. If you are so concerned that a tweet can get your players in prison, maybe don't go to China. Maybe that's not the company you want to be interacting with. Just an idea. LeBron continued. So just be careful what we tweet and we say and what we do. Even though, yes, we have freedom of speech, there can be a lot of negatives that come with that too. It's as if Chairman Mao was telling LeBron James himself what he should be saying. This was shameful. This is pathetic. This is an indictment of all of the capitalistic democracy values that have led LeBron James to becoming as wealthy as he has. Now, there is so much talk, I want to hit this, about being on the right side of history. If you are an actual historian, if you have actually studied history in your life, what you will learn is that the right and wrong side of history is very often just completely impossible to analyze. How so? Because it sometimes takes 100 years or 200 years to find out whether or not somebody is on the right side of history. The right side of history is actually being in favor of democracy, being in favor of capitalism, being in favor of basic human rights, all things that LeBron James has come out against, okay? And as you actually break it down, and as you actually contemplate what LeBron James said today, I believe that LeBron James is said here one of the dumbest things that has ever been said in the history of American sports. LeBron James likes to fashion himself as Muhammad Ali. Unlike Muhammad Ali, there are actually people who are willing to stand up in our modern society for things that might be unpopular. But usually those people don't get paid well to do it. LeBron James is the servant of Nike. He is the servant of China. He is doing the bidding of a large multinational company and of a communist dictatorship, and in the process, he is selling out America. This is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, shameful. Completely and totally a shameful performance by LeBron James. Now, you want to know who's actually brave and gets almost no attention in this country? Oftentimes, it's people who have immigrated into America, who actually understand what our Bill of Rights represents and who actually understand the values that we have. Enes Kanter sent this tweet after LeBron James's comments last night. This is Enes Kanter, who plays right now, I believe, for the Boston Celtics. Haven't seen or talked to my family for 5 years. Jailed my dad. My siblings can't find jobs. Revoked my passport. International arrest warrant. My family can't leave the country. Got death threats every day. Got attacked, harassed, tried to kidnap me in Indonesia. Freedom is not free. That is Enes Kanter, who is actually making a really smart statement here. LeBron James, several of you sent this to me. Nike has a new slogan. The new slogan for LeBron James is believe in something. It used to be even if it means sacrificing everything, but now we're crossing out even if it means sacrificing everything. And LeBron James's new slogan for Nike is believe in something unless it pisses China off. LeBron James should be ashamed of himself. Now, I do think this is an intriguing question. That doesn't mean that I think Daryl Morey's tweet was smart, right? I will defend Daryl Morey's tweet to the end of the earth because I'm a First Amendment absolutist. Having said that, it wasn't smart to be in Asia if you're Daryl Morey and you're employed by the Houston Rockets and suddenly decide that you are going to go out and do what you did if you are LeBron James's associate right here. It doesn't make sense what Daryl Morey said. It's not a smart decision. I don't know if he was drinking. I don't know why he decided to do it, but it's not in any way smart. But I will defend his right to the ends of the earth to do it. And what it ultimately did was bring home the hypocrisy latent in the NBA's relationship with China. And here's the big story about the NBA. While all the woke media out there, which isn't saying anything about LeBron James and how stupid he is, which is the majority of them, while all they have been defending the NBA like crazy, did you know that the NBA's audience in America is half what it was when Michael Jordan played? Doesn't get a lot of attention. The NBA's audience right now is half as big, despite the country has grown by 50 million people since Michael Jordan made his last jumper for the Chicago Bulls in 1998. You can go look it up yourself. The NBA's audience in America has cratered and tanked. And people want to argue, oh, the NBA's coming after the NFL and all this stuff. The NFL in the last 20 years has grown by a substantial and enormous magnitude. The NBA has tanked, which is why they are going to China, which is why they are desperate for Chinese money. Because they need Chinese money to make their salary cap work and to pay the players as much as they actually are going to be able to be paid under the salary cap. It's why there has been such a panic over China being upset, because if the NBA walks away, NBA players may start making about 20% less. Now, this is a big question. Why at the point where LeBron James is advancing towards billionaire status, would he not be willing to make 20% less for the last couple of years of his career and actually stand up for freedom, democracy, and human rights around the globe? If you told me right now, Clay Travis, you will make 20% more money, but you can no longer talk honestly about all of the opinions that you have, do you know what I would say? Even as a card-carrying capitalist, I don't need that 20% of extra money. I would rather say exactly what I think and write every single day for the rest of my life and make 20% less money, maybe even 50% less money than I would make if I just shut up and came on here every day and gave you only sports opinions and never touched anything else. I have actually turned down television shows in past years. Go read my book. I talk all about it, where sports TV executives have said to me, just shut up and talk sports and I will give you your own show. And I wasn't willing to do that. I'm not opposed to people deciding to sell out to make the most money that they possibly can. But 100% believing what I say every day and being able to say it is more important to me than selling out and making the most possible money. LeBron James is going to make what, $700-800 million in his life? Maybe even $1 billion? Is his life going to be that much different if he makes $1 billion as opposed to $1.2 billion? What is he driven by here? There is a moment in time when I believe speaking truth to power is more important than just making money. It's great to have money. It's great to have financial security. But if you've got hundreds of millions of dollars, another 100 million ain't changing your life. And it certainly isn't changing your kid's life or your kids' kids' lives or your kids' 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 lives. What could change the world is actually being willing to stand up for human rights and basic First Amendment protections, freedom of religion, and the same rights to exist in China as exist in the United States. So this is a big story. I think it's monumental. And here is where this crosses over into an even bigger stratosphere, okay? Bigger plateau. I just made up my own word. I combined plateau and stratosphere. A bigger plateau, a larger stratosphere, a more massive universe, okay? The NBA is caught in what has become a big power struggle with China. Early on, China went to all of the Hollywood studios and they said, we'll put on your movies, but we're going to demand that you censor them and comply with our standards in China. Our country, our laws, we want you to edit what you create and we will allow your movies to air here. So the Hollywood studios, overwhelmed by how big China's market is, rapidly went and they edited all these movies. What has happened recently is an emboldened China has started to make demands outside of their own country. And this is important here, and this is why I was so upset with what the NBA did. And I think this is what has so united a lot of Democrats and Republicans, regardless of your political background. It's one thing to say, hey, if you're bringing your movie to China, edit it so we can show it to the masses here. It's another thing entirely to say, you need to change your behavior outside of China. And that's what China wanted the NBA to do. That's what China was demanding. You may be an American and you may have First Amendment rights, but if you are employed by the NBA, you don't have the right to disagree with us about Hong Kong. And so that is what all the players have acquiesced to. That's what all the coaches have. That's what all the NBA executives acquiesce to. Not just to allowing China to influence the way that the game is distributed inside of their country, but China reached outside of their borders and said to the NBA, even though you have First Amendment rights, you don't have the First Amendment right to criticize our country if you are going to be a part of the NBA, which is airing in China. And that's a big statement. That's a big deal. Reaching outside of the country starts to impinge upon American rights. And that's where companies have to push back in a big and deep and substantial manner. LeBron James had the chance to step up and be the Muhammad Ali of his generation. He had the opportunity here to stand up to China and be on the right side of history in the future. Instead, LeBron sold out and distributed all sorts of ridiculous Chinese talking points, the most absurd of which was that Daryl Morey somehow didn't understand what he was talking about. Make no mistake about this. This is not a complicated situation. Steve Kerr last week said it was complicated. He was wrong. This is a basic question. Do you believe in the spread of democracy and in basic human rights for citizens around the world, regardless of what country they are in? My answer is yes. I believe that. If you do not believe that, then you are fundamentally advancing Chinese interests. And there is a battle coming in the 21st century, I believe we're already in it, over whether communist, totalitarian, authoritarian China or a capitalistic democracy like the United States will set all of the goals and regulations and parameters of a global world order. I believe that we need to be the leaders of the world in terms of setting examples, because what we have in America, a capitalistic democracy, should be, I believe, what exists all around the world. What China has is a communist dictatorship. LeBron James just said, I will shut up and dribble if you pay me enough money, even if you are a communist dictatorship. Adam Silver, Greg Popovich, Steve Kerr all said the exact same thing. They fundamentally got it wrong. This is a big deal in general. And I think it's a joke. I think it's an absolute joke. All right, those are my thoughts. Any questions from you guys that are intelligent about this LeBron James China comments, about the continued fallout here? I will answer any of your questions. Any questions that you guys may have here. By the way, we don't have Lock It In on today, but I will be on Tucker Carlson tonight on Fox News. Greg Popovich, Steve Kerr, LeBron James, none of those people will come on my radio show. They want woke media that is going to give them softballs. They are not in any way going to actually talk to someone who is doing something other than lapping up those situations. No, I think LeBron James will not lose any of his deals because that's the reason why he acted the way he did. He's trying to protect his already existing ability to argue for whatever he needs in order to be able to preserve the existing rights that he already has. So this is complete cowardice. It's hypocrisy. It is absolutely shameful in a large context. All right, Lions got screwed last night. Couple of thoughts on the Lions losing to the Packers. First of all, the calls were awful. Here's my solution. Everybody's angry about NFL officiating. Here's my solution that I came up with. Coaches get a limited number of challenge flags in NFL games. And as a result, there's not as many calls that are challenged because coaches know if they challenge, they might not be able to challenge for a more important play later if they're wrong. What if you limited how many flags each official had that they could throw during the course of a game? Depending on where they are, line judge is different than a back judge, all those different sorts of things. But if you knew that you had a limited number of penalties that you could call in a game, wouldn't you restrict the penalties that you did call to make sure that they are the most 100% of necessary magnitude in order to be called? That way, you're not calling what happens way too often, which is away from the ball fouls, right? We have so many bad calls that don't impact the actual play. Holding, if the right tackle is trying to set the edge and you are running in that direction, is an important call, and the team actually gained a systemic advantage if there was a hold on the edge like that. Holding on the backside, whether or not it happened, if the play isn't going in that direction and the ball's already being handed off, is not a penalty that should be called, right? These are basic things. I think that we could also be helped by an eye in the sky to review instantaneously every call, just like supposedly we're reviewing calls already, and they buzz down and say, that's not a penalty when it's not a penalty. The NFL is a victim of so many of their games being so close that we have way too many away from the ball, unnecessary fouls being called. Put it this way. If right now, for the rest of the year, I said NFL games will have half as many penalties as we have seen happen so far, would anybody think the product on the field would actually decline? In other words, you cut penalties exactly in half. I think the quality of play would not be impacted at all. I think fans would actually like it even more. The NFL has got to address this. It's continuing to become a bigger and bigger issue. I like the idea of a ref and an eye in the sky being able to review everything instantaneously. And I also, like happens, by the way, in college football already, and I like the idea of being able to judge calls in real time. We're getting too many of them wrong, and they're impacting the outcome of games too much. The NFL is a victim here of how close all the games are. Finally, somebody just said, what happens in Rams-Saints if they're out of flags at the end of the game? Well, the ideal scenario, the way this would be applied, I believe, is, first of all, it's inside of the final 2 minutes, so it's automatically being reviewed anyway, right? That's the way the setup is going on right now. But the way the setup happens now in the NFL is a coach doesn't challenge as often on minor issues because he's trying to preserve his challenge in the event there are major issues. So the hope would be, and I think the case would be, that an official wouldn't throw all of his flags. He would only throw a flag when he's 100% certain that an impactful foul has taken place. I also think merit-based pay could be useful here. What if you paid $5 million a year to the best NFL official? What if the best NFL officiating crew got a $10 million end of the year bonus? Why not reward the referees that are doing their best job? I think that could be and make a lot of sense. I think you need to incentivize the dollars to draw in the most talented people to be able to take over these jobs. And by the way, with gambling becoming more paramount, screw-ups like these are going to become bigger and bigger issues because fans are going to have more and more dollars at stake as opposed to fans just being upset. A lot of people are going to be dealing with substantial amounts of lost money. Therefore, you need even more of an incentive to actually get it right. Imagine when all 50 states are legal based on the way the Saints game came down. I lost 27 grand on that game because the NFL blew it and that official blew it. Cousin Sal and I lost nearly 60 grand. Finally, I got to tell you, love to see Michael Bennett get suspended by the Patriots. Michael Bennett, who is a liar, who told complete and total lies proven by video about the Las Vegas police racially profiling him, and then almost nobody in the woke sports media would touch this story, just got suspended by the New England Patriots. I absolutely love when lying, deceitful, fraudulent losers have to pay a price because they are lying, deceitful, fraudulent losers. Michael Bennett, enjoy your week off. I hope Bill Belichick keeps suspending your ass, and I hope more people in the media will take note of what a liar and a deceitful, conniving con man you actually are. All right, my name is Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. No lock it in today because we got the Major League Baseball playoffs on FS1, but we'll be back tomorrow. I will be on Tucker Carlson tonight talking about LeBron and his bending the knee to China. Love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. Kisses, DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. See y'all. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. See y'all.